Right. Great to see everyone. I'll talk about Starknet MEV. I'll talk about a bit more of an initiative towards Starknet MEV. I'll do a bit of explanations. Some of them will be, well, once again, we talk about MEV. So hi, I'm Tomasz Stanczak. I'm from Nethermind. It's one of many, many projects that we work on for Starknet. We decided it's high time to talk about how to onboard people on Starknet towards thinking about MEV a bit more, even more. So I'll explain it once again, what MEV is, minor extractable value, and I have a bit of my own definition that hopefully will be closer for some of you. So this is free money that's available for the privileged actors in the system to extract, to take. And for the privileged actors in Starknet, you can think of a sequencer. And usually those privileged actors will take a decision whether they want to risk their reputation and do some value extraction. Value extraction necessarily has to be malicious, but in some cases may be malicious. And then they risk reputation. As long as they are not permissionless, if they're permissioned and if they're known to everyone, then usually this not happens and means we are protected from malicious value extraction. And in case of Starknet, this is a Starkware sequencer. And well, they wouldn't risk reputation just to start sandwiching the users. It would probably kill the ecosystem. The solutions to MEV usually, to the malicious MEV, usually include either addressing it on the protocol level and thinking about how to change the protocol in a way that those privileged actors don't have exactly the same powers as they normally would have. So for example, we can randomize who propose blocks, or we can encrypt the mempool and limit access to the information about transactions that are flowing through the system from the sequencers or anyone else who is in the privileged position. Or we can keep improving the protocols on the smart contracts level and make sure that there's less opportunities to do something with transactions that would extract MEV. Now, when we think about very specific examples of MEV or maybe categories of MEV extraction on the transactions, let's split them into the front-running, back-running, and sandwich. And I think about a very, very real-life use cases. So front-running is you found some amazing opportunity on chain, let it be some NFT that you can only buy once, and only one person can buy it. And you think, if I manage to buy this NFT when it's released, just at that very second when it's released, then I'll be super happy. I'll make money, or I'll be the owner, proud owner of that NFT. If someone sees my transaction and decides, oh, I didn't notice it before, but they give me a hint that this NFT is very valuable, and I front run it, I swipe this NFT before that person, and the user is very unhappy, right? So front running usually you will see as a malicious thing. I cannot really imagine front running to be too positive. So I just notice someone wants to do something in the mempool, or in the case of Starknet, I would have to do that in the on the flow of transactions towards the sequencer, and I inject something in like before that, and I take opportunity to take advantage of it. Back running very often will be seen as positive. I mean, usually will be seen as positive. So user does something, sends transaction, and you can send the transaction after. And well, the user probably doesn't care because they already executed everything in a transactional way, whatever they intended, and they don't care about what the state of the world is. But very often the user action leads to some kind of side effects, maybe mispricing of multiple exchanges on the decentralized exchanges. And now if I backrun the user, then I can take advantage of those mispricings. And there's lots of positive effects, because maybe I'll rebalance all the exchanges and there's better price discovery for everyone else. Like, so sure, someone has to take this opportunity, but the big mispricings, big opportunities are actually bad for users, because users are usually will be less sophisticated and they don't want the prices to be all over the place, because maybe they end up going to the wrong side of the trade. So I want to buy something that is severely mispriced and I'll overpay 20%. But if arbitrager comes before me, they'll make sure that I'm not overpaying, that I'm just paying the spread. And particularly bad examples of sandwiching, which means that user sends a transaction of trading on AMM. I want to buy, for example, I send a transaction that says I want to buy $1 million worth of ETH, paying USDC, and someone notices this transaction and says, okay, so I'll buy before you, I'll raise the price for you, you pay more, and then just after you buy it, I'll sell what I bought before. So I sandwich the transaction with the two transactions before and after. All right, so why do we want to talk about Starknet MEV? So this is a bit because at the times when the TVL is still not extremely high, well, it's growing. We wish it would be much, much higher. When the DeFi ecosystem of Starknet is still getting the momentum, this is the time when many of the large players are not yet ready to invest a lot of effort and time into arbitraging on Starknet, which means that we may have worse price discovery, worse of those positive effects of MEV, and still because we have the sequencer and all the privacy on the mempool, then, well, there's not that much malicious things that can happen. So, well, we want to make sure that all the developers in Starknet ecosystem have this like, good journey of learning about MEV, which leads to better understanding of the sequencing of the transactions, of all the concepts that are used for Starknet, probably leads to massive optimizations of many algorithms that we use in or Cairo coding, because that's what usually happens when MEV people start competing with each other. They start optimizing the codes, they start limiting the gas usage, they start improving the solutions that are used for DeFi. Now, we want to do that before all the top players come to the market because, well, this way we can bring more developers to get very, very deep understanding of the protocol. So the initiative that we're running with a few people and want to invite everyone else to join on the Telegram channel that we started and probably on the Twitter threads and for some Medium content that we'll be creating, and we want to invite everyone to do the same, to start creating tools, content, discuss it, talk about MEV, try to do the extraction of MEV, that's probably the backgrounds only, and also probably provide a lot of data to explain to everyone in the ecosystem what happens to the DeFi ecosystem on Starknet, to show it outside and most likely show how it grows and how it improves over time. Without those dashboards, again, we may lose some users, we may use some of the sophisticated players that will be not encouraged to come to the ecosystem because they'll think, okay, the tooling is missing, data is missing, I don't see the opportunities. So Medium posts, tweets, GitHub repos, talks. I think the first one of the content from one of our interns, Christian, he published something today on Medium. Now, once again, why now? We have this opportunity. We can improve the skills on Cairo, optimize Cairo. Well, I said that already. So. Also, when you go to some of the publications, recent publications, so many teams realize that now it's a high time to start talking about MEV on L2. This is unavoidable over time. There's like whenever the big volumes come, whenever the TVL locked, the value locked in the DeFi protocols on a given L2 increase, then we may have all the risks related to that. So first of all, as long as we have the centralized sequencer, we cannot be really safe feeling that, oh, okay, that's just like no MEV extraction will happen, no risk to that, we are safe from MEV. This is not the case because the moment the value is on the table, the operators, the searchers, will start hammering the sequencers and sending all the transactions, trying to extract MEV and try to get in the right place just after the transactions of users. So if I send this 1 million byte transaction, then everyone will try to backrun me, and now suddenly all the searchers start competing for that one moment after my transaction and get to that very place, which means that they have better probability of landing exactly that place if they send millions of transactions and many of them revert, but one of them will manage to land exactly in front of all the others. So they compete with each other and they drive the prices and they potentially clog the sequencer. So we want to avoid it before it happens. Arbitrum was going through that process in the last year, I think. So they now talk about how to introduce the modifications to FCFS. And we should also read as much as possible to understand which direction it goes, what the volumes are, how to think about the sequencer decentralization. If you have seen 2024 as the vision for introducing mempool, public mempool to Starknet, well, what does it mean? Okay, so we have to start thinking about MEV because public mempool means that we expose the order flow to all the malicious order flow operations from the searchers. And as you see here, confirmation, so these are some quotes from this Time to Talk About L2 MEV from Dunning. Sandwich volume across L2s is significantly lower compared to the atomic arbitrage volume. And this is other way around than it is on Ethereum, because there is no public mempool. So generally, public mempool leads to the searchers taking advantage of users, and this is known. And most of the solutions, or like all the solutions that MEV teams try to introduce, are for protecting that user flow, for redirecting users from the public mempool towards the private solutions that are protecting the flow. And you can imagine it's a bit like, you know that on the traditional markets, when you trade some stock markets, you would expect that you wouldn't, before buying like Apple stock, you wouldn't go to the public market and shout that I'm about to buy like millions of dollars of Apple stock, because others may take advantage of the price movement that you're causing. It's the same a bit with public mempool. You don't want to shout about what you're going to do, so you use the private flow. These are a few links that you can look at from the perspective of Arbitrum, when they wanted to solve the problems when the searchers started sending like millions of calls to their sequencer. And it was an interesting situation also around that time. I think that Optimism realized that they didn't switch off the set of RPC calls that normally in Ethereum clients allow you to ask about the transaction pool in the node. So their sequencer had the public endpoint open for listening about the ordering of transactions internally. And they discovered it only after some time and fixed. So if you see like the sandwiching activity for the last years, actually Optimism, I think, had some sandwiching activity in 2023. Check it, I don't want to be wrong here. Why we also do it now? Because of DeFi Spring. So we want to strengthen the timing between the DeFi Spring and all our efforts to raise awareness about the DeFi ecosystem in Starknet. At the time, we also push a lot of value, 50 million Stark, towards the liquidity coming to the Starknet ecosystem on DeFi. So if we coordinate all those actions, this is when the TVL happens. This is when all the developers can try to experiment with solo searchers, solo devs, and take advantage of liquidity and improve the price discovery on Starknet. So not only will have volumes, but also the pricing will be correct. And our team started looking at the price discrepancies. And here is almost like an encouragement for everyone to rush, because we told our team members that, well, if you want to run some bots on the side, outside of Netlimind, that's like, you can run them. And well, the arbitrage bots, remember, they're always positive. They lead to the price discovery. And this is one of the quotes was, oh, data are surprising. If they are real, I must store the average bot immediately. So I'm trying to break it for them and say, like, try to rush. It might be days, it might be weeks, it might be months. When if you start running the bots, then you may extract some value while learning a lot about how Starknet operates. And here are the examples of the discrepancies between the centralized exchange pricing, between, it's on the ETH USDC pair, I think. And the value might be wrong. We are rushing this, like, as a team start to experiment, collect the data, scrape the data. And you see across all the different AMMs, the pricing is very different, and you can take advantage of it. So sometimes you have atomic arbitrage, and the atomic arbitrage means that you are sure that you execute everything on chain, and you buy something in one place, sell it in another place, you take the value, and you see that you actually didn't involve any capital. It didn't put any capital at risk, and you took advantage of the mispricing. If you do that between centralized exchange and decentralized exchange, you're taking some risk of like mistimings, of not inclusion, the transaction reverting. So this is a bit of more risky play. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do that. And I mentioned order flow. And when you think about it, so if we open the mempool, what really goes to the mempool? So usually the most unsophisticated order flow, by order flow we mean the transactions that are interacting with the decentralized finance. So the least sophisticated order flow goes to the mempool. So this will be the flow that goes directly from the wallets without thinking about the implications of the trades. But you have all the different types of order flows. So you can have the Telegram bots that know the value of their order flow, and they sell that flow potentially to the searchers directly. So the searchers would pay for all the transactions. So I don't know, they would price it at a few cents per transactions just to have access to reorder everything, to understand what people are buying and make trades on top of it. Then you may think of the wallets or RPC services that have access to whatever you're doing. And probably many of us don't think about it, but if I connect to a wallet, let it be Argent or Bravos, then theoretically the wallet could know what I'm about to trade. Now the wallet connects to RPC service. It might be Nethermind Starknet RPC service. So it means that Nethermind Starknet RPC potentially knows the trade that you're about to execute. So you route it through the wallet, through the Starknet RPC, only then it goes to sequencer. So you already have 3 players that potentially could, if they were about to reach the reputation, which probably, well, for sure they will not, they would possibly take advantage of your trades. So this is the order flow that also, what may happen is that those players in the ecosystem can decide, well, we can do something like already exists in Ethereum, and we can take this order flow and start selling it for only some type of operations. For example, you can select that your trade might be backrun, so that you can participate in the auction that since you're trading a lot, you don't know how to take advantage of mispricing after your trade. You can agree with the wallet or the RPC operator or someone else that you'll sell they'll sell the rights to backrun your trade to anyone if they pay you some percentage of it. So there are solutions like this, for example, MEV blocker, MEV share for Ethereum, and most likely they'll be appearing for all the L2s. And here is the example of MEV blocker on Ethereum that shows all the different settings that users can use. Like, so they can use the endpoints for RPC connection. They may say, okay, fast, and then I'm allowing the refunds for backrunning, but I'm not checking if the transaction reverts, so I don't have any like revert protection. No reverts is like they provide the service where user actually, whenever they send transaction, they're not risking the transaction will get reverted and included on chain. Like if you do it directly through the wallet, then you can send a transaction. If it gets reverted, you lose some money. But if you send it through some operators that create revert protection, that they'll tell you, oh, if it reverts, we'll just keep it, we simulate it. Notice that here, the operator of such service takes the cost of simulating transaction on themselves, because the reverts, you pay money for reverts because the cost of simulation of reverts still is there with someone. So you want to pay for that cost. But because they make money in other ways, so they provide you this as a bit of a subsidization of the transactions. There are a few other modes, but you can look at them. And what I say, like, it really starts mattering if you have more than one sequencer. And particularly if the sequencer is, for example, like in the Tendermint protocol, the sequencers will be permissionless. Whoever stakes the most will become the sequencer. And now they might be even anonymous. And now you have to send all the order flow to them, and they see the transactions. Even the transactions are not encrypted, then they may be taken advantage of. If the transactions are encrypted, what happens is that, sure, for a single block, all the transactions are encrypted, but then nobody knows how to extract MEV, which means also this positive MEV doesn't happen, all the price discovery doesn't happen, and you end the block with the prices totally off across all the exchanges. After the block, the searcher still will look, oh, so what's wrong with the prices? Then they'll send the encrypted transaction to the next block, and the extraction of MEV happens on the top of the next block, instead of at the end as the background of the existing transactions. Some other solutions that are like getting a lot of attention now are the trusted execution environments. So the enclaves like SGX and TDX. So people are building ideas of the dark pools where all the order flow, whether it's from RPC, wallets, from the Telegram, goes to the trusted execution environment, and only there it allows for the searchers to access that order flow within some specified conditions of what are the rules of accessing the order flow. So lots of solutions around it, Swav, Automata, a lot of solutions talking about the intents of you talking instead of sending transaction, talking about what exactly is the type of trade you want to execute and asking solvers to match it with all the opportunities with other intents. Also, you can look at the solutions around cow protocol and Fastlane as different approaches to how people solve the MEV issues, MEV-related issues. 2 events happening during FCC, one around the TEs and one talking about the dark pools. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll be happy to connect with you after.